All right, let's talk briefly about the resource supply curve. We just finished recently talking about the resource demand curve. So the resource supply curve, it's very similar to the law of supply. So if you understand the law of supply, and that when the price goes up, then more of the good or service will be supplied than the resource supplies. It operates under the same principle. When, for example, wage goes up, people will offer more hours of their time for that hourly wage to work. But there's a couple of little wrinkles that we need to throw in. One is the substitution effect. This essentially says what I just said, and this is the part that kind of sounds the most like the original law of supply. If you think about the time that you have your work time and you have your time that you're not working, and most people would prefer to do whatever they want to do and not have to go to work all the time, but we know that we have to go to work in order to make money and live in our society and all that stuff. The substitution effect says the higher your wage, the more hours you will be willing to work, right? So, for example, the opportunity cost of not working becomes higher, right? So if you get $5 an hour, you're only giving up $5 when you choose to not work for an hour. But if you get $50 an hour, you're giving up $50 to not work for an hour. So in effect, you can think about it as your value of your leisure time. Right? Is your leisure time worth $5 an hour? Yeah, sure. Is your leisure time worth $50 an hour? Well, maybe not. Maybe 1 hour of your leisure time, but how many hours of your leisure time do you need? You can also bring in the concept of diminishing marginal utility, right? If you have, leisure day after leisure day after leisure day, like all summer off, well, maybe the additional utility of another leisure day at the end of the summer is less, right? And you're ready to work, right? And if you're going to get $50 an hour for that work, you're going to line up and do it. Maybe not if you're only going to get $5 an hour. Anyways, so what we'll see when we graph this is a direct relationship between wage and labor supplied. But there's something that works exactly in the opposite way. It's called the income effect. Now, if we assume that leisure is a normal good, that it's something that we want more of as we have more money, then as your wage increases, your income increases, your wealth increases, and you'll want to consume more leisure, right? So, as your wage is going up, it's going to make you want to work more hours, but at a certain point, your wage goes so high that you want to work less hours because leisure is a normal good. That might seem strange to you, but if you think about it in this way, how many hours would you work if you were getting $5 an hour, low wage? How many hours would you want to work, say, in a week if you were getting 10, now 15, now 20? Now imagine how many hours in a week that you would want to work if you were getting $50 an hour. What about $100 an hour? Is there any point at which you would want to work less hours? What if you were getting $10,000 an hour? So in any given week, if you worked full time, you'd be making $40,000. We're talking like elite level professional athlete salary here, right? Now, the difference between $40,000 and $32,000 a week is significant, but can you live off $32,000 a week? Certainly. Many, many people live off less than $32,000 a year. So you might be more willing to say, well, I've got all this money, I'm going to take some time to do what I want to do instead of work, even though I'm making a lot of money. I mentioned the professional athlete example earlier, and that the same kind of thing applies. A lot of professional athletes work very, very hard kind of earlier on in their life when they're younger and more fit and more healthy and able to compete at that highest level, and then they reach the age of the mid-30s, and if they've had a successful career, retire and then do whatever they want to do for the rest of their lives because they have so much money that they don't need to work anymore. That is the income effect, and the graph of it looks like this. It's a back-bending labor supply curve. So the substitution effect is usually stronger when we observe this in the world. The substitution effect is stronger at lower wages, and then when wages get higher and higher and higher, the income effect starts to win out over the substitution effect. So the result is a labor supply curve that bends backwards. It looks like this, right? So we have a low wage, And the substitution effect causes this direct or positive relationship between wage and hours worked. But then as your wage gets up into the astronomical, like professional athlete, kind of like I was talking about, situation, you'll actually move from more hours worked to less hours worked. Now, there's a lot of kind of personal preference when it comes down to this at the individual level, but this relationship does hold for individuals as well as for larger groups of people. So this is actually what we'll see if we look at the real world labor market. So that's the backbending labor supply curve that is on your problem set. If you have questions about this, please bring them to class and bring them to office hours.